Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braje Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braje Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Haribo. So welcome everyone to the Bhagavad Gita class that we have every day at the temple at this time. I'm going to recite the verse which is up there on the board, and we can do call and response. So I'll recite one line and then you can recite. Klebhyam asmagama parta Netatvai upapadyate Shudram hirdaya dorbalyam Tvaktvotista parantapa Klebhyam asmagama parta Netatvai upapadyate Shudram hirdaya dorbalyam Tyaktvotista parantapa Klebhyam asmagama parta Netatvai upapadyate Shudram hirdaya dorbalyam Tyaktvotista parantapa. So I forgot to mention, we're reading chapter 2, text 3 of Bhagavad Gita. So now, if anyone would like to recite line by line, please go ahead. Klebhyam asmagama parta Netatvai upapadyate Shudram hirdaya dorbalyam Tyaktvotista parantapa. Klebhyam asmagama parta Netatvai upapadyate Shudram hirdaya dorbalyam Tyaktvotista parantapa. So we'll go word for word now. Klebhyam, impotence. Masma, do not. Gama, take to. Partha, O son of Partha. Na, never. Etat, this. Tvai, unto you. Upapadyate, is befitting. Shudram, petty. Hirdaya, of the heart. Dorbalyam, weakness. Tyaktva, giving up. Utista, get up. Paramtapa, O chastiser of the enemies. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O son of Partha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Purport. Arjuna was addressed as the son of Partha, who happened to be the sister of Krishna's father, Vasudeva. Therefore, Arjuna had a blood relationship with Krishna. If the son of a Kshatriya declines to fight, he is a Kshatriya in name only. And if the son of a Brahmana acts impiously, he is a Brahmana in name only. Such Kshatriyas and Brahmanas are unworthy sons of their fathers. Therefore, Krishna did not want Arjuna to become an unworthy son of a Kshatriya. Arjuna was the most intimate friend of Krishna, and Krishna was directly guiding him on the chariot. But in spite of all these credits, if Arjuna abandoned the battle, he would be committing an infamous act. Therefore, Krishna said that such an attitude in Arjuna did not fit his personality. Arjuna might argue that he would give up the battle on the grounds of his magnanimous attitude for the most respectable Bhishma and his relatives, but Krishna considered that sort of magnanimity mere weakness of heart. Such false magnanimity was not approved by any authority. Therefore, such magnanimity or so-called non-violence should be given up by persons like Arjuna under the direct guidance of Krishna. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Kadamba Kanana Swami Niti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Gurudasa Jayadvaita Swami Niti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasatyadi Shtarine. So welcome everyone to the Bhagavad Gita class once again. We're reading chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, and we're just at the beginning. So I want to know who has experience reading Bhagavad Gita or hearing about it. Please raise your hand. Yay! Anyone else? Okay. Who's read the whole thing? But who knows what kind of goes on in the story? A little bit. Okay. So we'll get into it. In context, the Bhagavad Gita is a portion of the Mahabharata, which is a scripture that describes many very great activities of very saintly kings, and particularly a family called the Kuru dynasty. And in this portion of it that we are reading, which where the Bhagavad Gita begins, there's a battle taking place between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. So the Pandavas and Kauravas are actually from the same family. They're cousins. But the Kauravas are naturally inclined towards sinful activity, and the Pandavas are pious and righteous. So what happened is, before, the backstory is that the Pandavas were when the father of the dynasty passed away, Yudhishthira Maharaj was naturally, who's one of the Pandavas, he was naturally meant to take the kingdom. But the Kauravas, being envious of him, wanted the kingdom. And therefore they tried at all costs to usurp the kingdom from Yudhishthira Maharaj. And eventually they sent the Pandavas into exile. They tried to burn down their house. They tried to kill the Pandavas. So it came to a point where the Pandavas were really trying to reconcile, to create a situation in which everyone could be happy. They even asked for a small piece of land in the kingdom. But because of the greed of the Kauravas, they were not cooperative. They didn't agree to anything. And therefore it came to this part where there needed to be a battle between the two families, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And the Pandavas, there's 5 brothers there, Yudhishthir, Arjuna, Bhima, Nakul, and Sahadev. They're natural warriors. So they're inclined to fight already. They're inclined towards battle. But at the beginning of the battle, which is where chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita starts, Arjuna gets hesitant because he sees that his family is on the opposing side. He starts seeing them and gets nervous, like, how can I fight my family? How can I kill my grandfather? How can I be in battle against my uncles, my cousins, those who have taught me, my teachers? So he gets anxious and he hesitates, and he starts shivering. His body shows visible signs of anxiety and stress. And throughout the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna gives many reasons to Krishna about why he doesn't want to fight. Krishna has taken the role of his chariot driver, and he speaks to Krishna right at the beginning of the battle saying, how can I fight? And he gives different reasons. One reason is that he's feeling compassion now towards his family. Like, how can he kill them? And then another reason is that he feels that it's sinful to actually kill, especially those who have taught you. They're your family, they've taught you, they've helped you grow. So how can you then in turn kill them? You're meant to receive knowledge with gratitude from your teachers. You're meant to honor your teachers and respect them. But now he'll be doing the opposite, which is killing them. So he feared sinful reactions. Another reason was that even if he wins, he's not going to enjoy the kingdom because his family isn't there to enjoy it with. So there's no point actually enjoying, even winning the battle, because what's he going to do in the kingdom alone? And another reason was that it's going to destroy the family tradition. And he gave the point that actually women will become, if the family tradition is destroyed, then the woman will be unchaste. They will have unwanted children. That means that children won't be had consciously. They'll now just happen in an unwanted way by mistake. And then when that happens, the family traditions of any kind of religious or pious activity will be destroyed because they won't continue to carry forward the family traditions, having been born like this. So Arjuna gives many good reasons. And when we're reading this, we kind of think, actually, these are good. He's right, he's giving really good ideas. But Krishna, in the second chapter, basically thwarts all his ideas. He basically corrects him and says, no, what you're thinking is not right. And this is now the beginning of the second chapter, and throughout the second chapter is going to just defeat Arjuna. So in this verse here, Arjuna is basically thinking he's being compassionate. And Krishna just calls it immediately weakness of heart. Hridaya dorbalyam. That's the phrase meaning weakness of heart. That means that your compassion of wanting to save is just weakness. It's not actual compassion. And we understand why Krishna says this. It sounds harsh, but actually it's true, because later on in the chapter, Krishna explains that for a Kshatriya, this would be weakness. A Kshatriya is a natural warrior, and their duty is to protect. So for them to become compassionate would be foolish. For them to become non-violent would actually be foolish. And so later on in the chapter, Krishna will say, Svadharmamapi chakvekshya navikampitum arhasi dharmyadi yuddhachreyonya kshatriyasya navidyate. Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. and so there is no need for hesitation. Yadrichaya chupapanam svargadvaram apavritam sukhina kshatriya partha labante yuddhamidrisham. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. So Krishna explains that if you fight and you die, then you'll go be promoted to heaven. And if you fight and you live, then you will enjoy the kingdom and you'll live a heavenly life of opulence here. So either way, whatever you do in battle, you will be benefited. But if you don't fight, then this is what will happen. Ata chetvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karisyasi tata swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Akirtem chapi bhutani katayisyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtir maranadatirichyate. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. Bhayaranad uparatam mamsyante tvam maharata yesham cha tvam bahumato bhutvayasyasi lagavam. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Avacyavadamscha bahun vadisyanti tavahita nindantastava samartyam tato dukha taram nukim. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful than this for you? So, in all these verses where Krishna is guiding Arjuna, he's basically saying that if you fight, you'll be benefited. And if you don't fight, then not only will sinful kings be in power, but you will also lose your reputation. You will be dishonored. And for a Kshatriya, for a warrior, dishonor is actually worse than death. Now, we may not be able to relate to this because for us, dishonor is okay. It's not as bad as death. But we are not Kshatriyas, probably. But for Kshatriya, just being insulted is worse than death. So if Arjuna's reputation was to be destroyed and then he lived the rest of his life knowing that he fled the battlefield, everyone will think he's not a real Kshatriya, He's not honoring his duty and his family tradition. So what comes up here is the natural qualities of a Kshatriya. Kshatriyas are warriors. They're in charge of administration. And in Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, it says, Soryam tejo dhritir dakshyam yude chapya palayanam danam ishvara bhavascha kshatram karma svabhavajam. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. So courage in battle, this is what Arjuna is actually not displaying, even though this is very much in his nature. And he is trying to act as if he's a Brahmana, because what he's trying to do, compassion, peace, non-violence, these are the natural qualities of a Brahmana. Samodamas-tapo socham shantir arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So, shantir, peace, tolerance, that's what Arjuna is trying to display. He's trying to just have peace and, be non-violent. But because he's not naturally a Brahmana, it's actually he's going against his duty. And Krishna is really just trying to protect Arjuna here. Some people say that, Krishna is promoting violence. And Srila Prabhupada comments on this quite a bit, that people say, Arjuna is peaceful. Why is Krishna riling him up, trying to promote violence? But actually, Krishna is just trying to protect him from making the mistake of fleeing the battlefield, having dishonor, having his reputation ruined, and then allowing sinful kings to prosper. And it's interesting because in Bhagavad Gita, the whole book, there's only 2 verses that are repeated. And one of those verses that are repeated twice is a verse that says that you should perform your own duty and not somebody else's duty. And then the other verse that's repeated is basically about always thinking of Krishna, surrendering, offering obeisances to Krishna, and just basically giving your life to Krishna. So those 2 verses are repeated by Krishna because they're the most important parts of Bhagavad Gita. If you repeat something, it means it's really important. So the first one is about not doing someone else's duty, doing your own duty. And that's what Krishna is saying, that it's actually so important for us in our life to understand what our duty is, what our nature is, and to act accordingly. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions the respective duties of Kshatriyas and Brahmanas. And Brahmanas are naturally forgiving and pious. And Kshatriyas are meant to be brave, they're meant to protect, they're meant to be heroes. And it's not blind leadership. It's not blindly being a warrior. Kshatriyas are actually known as Rajarshis. That means they're sages also. They do everything according to religious principles. They follow the scriptures, and they're being led by the Brahmanas. They're being led by the heads, the teachers of society in how to act. So it's known in Vedic times that the king is like a representative of God. He rules the country and the kingdom in such a way that everyone is happy and that everyone is fully protected and cared for. That was the prime duty of the king. It's currently should be the prime duty of the king, but we don't see that anymore. But in the scriptures, we have many examples of saintly kings who basically ran the kingdom in such a way that everyone was thriving. And because of their saintly leadership, there was no famine. There was no excessive cold or excessive heat. There was no drought. There was no natural disasters. All of these things come about because there is collective karma that's at play. There's negative collective karma that everyone, the leadership and the citizens are currently putting out there. And therefore, we have wars breaking out. We have natural disasters all coming to offset that imbalance. They're coming to rectify it because there's so much negative karma being generated collectively. But with a saintly king in the scriptures, we see examples of how, because the king is so saintly, that means the citizens are also saintly because they're properly directed. And any sinful people would be properly corrected and handled in the kingdom, such that the whole kingdom would promote auspiciousness. And then there won't be natural disasters. It said that when Lord Ram ruled the kingdom, there was no untimely death. As in, it wasn't possible for someone to even die before they got old, and it happened naturally. That's how pious and that's how righteous the kings were at the time. So, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about the son of a Kshatriya and the son of a Brahmana. In the scriptures, in many places, we hear of the term Brahma Bandhu, which is the son of a Brahmana who is not acting according to Brahmanical principles. So that's like a Brahmana in name only, because they're not living up to it. Does anyone know of an example from scripture of such a Brahma Bandhu? Anyone? So in Mahabharata, we have the example of Asvatthama, who's a good example because he is one such Brahma Bandhu. He is someone that is born in a family, exalted family, and he's the son of Dronacharya, who's a Brahmana, who's a teacher, the guru of the Pandavas and Kauravas, but he performed a very heinous act. What he did was, after the battle of Kurukshetra was over, and the Kauravas were inevitably defeated because they were sinful and because Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. So of course, the Kauravas were going to be defeated. But Asvatthama was so distraught that he wanted revenge, and therefore he approached the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi, who is Arjuna's wife, and killed all of them. He just cut their heads off. And when Asvatthama performed this heinous act, Draupadi was devastated. She was completely distraught. And Arjuna said, he was furious. Arjuna says, "Oh, gentle lady, when I present you with the head of that Brahmana, after beheading him with arrows from my Gandiva bow, I shall then wipe the tears from your eyes and pacify you. Then, after burning your sons' bodies, you can take your bath standing on his head." So Arjuna was furious and ready to kill Asvatthama for his heinous act of killing innocent children. And so Arjuna goes to find Asvatthama, and Asvatthama, trying to defend himself, releases an extremely powerful weapon called the Brahmastra, which is something that cannot be counteracted unless it's by another Brahmastra. And only very qualified Brahmanas know the art of releasing the Brahmastra. It's a very strong weapon. It's this big effulgent light. Such was the warfare back in the day, that you could target your weapon to who you want it to reach. It's not like how we have nuclear bombs where like they drop the bomb and they're trying to destroy one person, but the whole country or the whole city is destroyed. In Vedic times, you could target exactly who you wanted to target. So Asvatthama sent out the Brahmastra to protect himself. And Arjuna consulted with Krishna, and Krishna told him, the only way you can counteract is by sending a Brahmastra and then retracting both of them to you. So he sent out the Brahmastra, it met Asvatthama's Brahmastra, and then Arjuna retracted both of them. So then now the Brahmastra was gone. And then Arjuna captured Asvatthama, and he tied him up. And then he wanted to kill him, but he thought, no, I will take him to Draupadi to deal with. And then when he took him to Draupadi, Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Shri Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai. So when Arjuna took Asvatthama to Draupadi, Draupadi, being a soft-hearted devotee, full of compassion, actually said, "No, don't kill him. He is the son of our teacher. Our teacher is still alive in him because the son represents the father. So we should not kill him." And she also made the point that Asvatthama's mother was now bereft of her husband, and she didn't want Asvatthama's mother to go through the same suffering that she had gone through by losing a son. The way she had lost her 5 sons, she didn't want Asvatthama's mom to lose her son. So she's very compassionate and forgiving. So then Arjuna agreed, okay, he won't. But then Krishna also instructed Arjuna that he should kill Asvatthama. And Bhima was furious, so Bhima was ready to kill. So there was this dilemma for Arjuna. How does he deal with Asvatthama? And Krishna told him, well, you have to satisfy everyone. You have to somehow honor what your wife is saying, but you have to honor what Bhima and I are saying, what everyone's saying. So then Arjuna, using his intelligence, decided that he will simultaneously kill him and not kill him. So what he did was he cut off the jewel on Asvatthama's head, which was the mark of his Brahmanical prowess. The jewel that Asvatthama had was giving him Brahmanical strength. And when Arjuna cut that off, he simultaneously dishonored him, and therefore he was known to be a Brahma Bandhu, someone that is not actually a Brahmana, the son of a Brahmana who's not a real Brahmana, and therefore he killed his reputation whilst keeping him alive. So he managed to satisfy everyone. So that's the result of being a Brahma Bandhu. And Krishna's defense, he said, a person who knows the principles of religion does not kill an enemy who is careless, intoxicated, insane, asleep, afraid, or devoid of his chariot. Nor does he kill a boy, a woman, a foolish creature, or a surrendered soul. So according to religious principles, Asvatthama's act was completely sinful because he's killing young boys who are asleep. And he wasn't doing it for any higher purpose. It's not that he was even instructed by his guru. And that's why he was properly dealt with by Arjuna. And then like we have the word Brahma Bandhu, there's also the word Shatra Bandhu, which means the son of a Kshatriya who's not living according to Kshatriya principles. He's not living up to his name. So Krishna doesn't want Arjuna here in Bhagavad Gita to be known as a Shatra Bandhu, someone who's just in the position of a Kshatriya but who is not actually qualified and not acting accordingly. So this morning we were reading another story of a Shatra Bandhu in our little reading group that we have. There's a nice story from Srimad Bhagavatam on Maharaj Anga and King Vena in Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's described that there's a very saintly king, Maharaj Anga, and he lived very much according to the scripture, but he wasn't able to get a son. He really desired a son. And then he asked the brahmanas, like what's happening, and then they blessed him. They gave him some kind of elixir that his wife was meant to drink such that she'd have a son. So to fulfill this great desire that he had for many years, his wife drank the elixir and then she had a son. But unfortunately, the son was a Shatra Bandhu. He was not living up to the qualities of his father. He was completely sinful, always causing terror to other people, just doing bad activities all the time. And Maharaj Anga, being pious and saintly, was constantly trying to rectify him. Because Maharaj Anga also, like the Kshatriyas we hear about, he lived according to religious principles. He lived according to the scripture. And he was running the kingdom in such a way that everyone was happy. But now his offspring is creating havoc in society. So he tried as much as he could to rectify his son, but eventually he realized the son could not be rectified. He couldn't improve. It's like an improvement program gone wrong. Nothing happens. So then Maharaj Anga takes it as a sign that he should just renounce family life. He should just go to the forest and focus on his self-realization, because his family life has come to a point where it's a burden. It's not helping him. And then he starts saying things like, it's better to have no son than to have a bad son. And he also says, actually, maybe this is a good thing because it helped me to detach from my family life. If I had a good son, I may be attached to my son. So now I can just be detached out of disappointment and go to the forest and focus on my spiritual life. So it ended up being something positive. But when Vena, now his son's name is Vena, when Maharaj Anga left, there was no king in the kingdom. And then because there's no ruling authority, the rogues and criminals were running wild. They were flourishing. And because they're flourishing now, the citizens are always in fear, because the rogues are just running about they're like running the land in one sense. So then the sages assembled again and said, well, we need a king. So they put King Vena onto the throne. And King Vena is sinful himself, but they needed a king, so they just put the offspring of Maharaj Anga onto the throne. And then that curbed the criminals in one sense, because the criminals were so fearful of King Vena because of his reputation of being so strong and so sinful, that actually the criminals stopped. The rogues and thieves stopped. But then King Vena himself was terrorizing the citizens. He was just being a bad government, which we all have experience of. Somewhere in the world we have experience of bad leadership. So, and then one thing that was really significant that King Vena did was he tried to stop religious practices. He tried to stop all the sacrifices, any kind of religious offerings that were being done. And when that happened, the citizens were it's described in Bhagavatam that they were like ants on a burning piece of wood that's burning on both ends. Because on one end, if they have no king, then the rogues and criminals will thrive. But on the other end, if there is a king, then the king will terrorize them. So either way, they have no escape. They have no protection, no security. So then the sages assembled again, and they spoke to King Vena and tried to get him to see that his duty as a king is to protect the citizens and to make sure that everybody is practicing spiritual life. They're all acting according to their highest duty, which is to serve Krishna and to develop their relationship with Krishna. And all their activities in terms of their occupation, their duties, it's all in support of that. That's the duty of the king. But King Verna was so puffed up that he didn't even listen to them. And he thought, actually, being the king, I am greater than God. He thinks that he needs to be worshipped over God. So then the Brahmanas, rightly so, killed him by mantra. They cursed him, and Brahmanas at that time were extremely powerful. So therefore their words, their curses meant something. They could curse, they could, just by mantra, they could kill someone. So they got rid of King Verna, and then naturally without a king, the criminals were thriving again, and therefore they had to get another king, which was Maharaj Prithu, which actually came about from churning the body of King Verna. So we have this example from scripture about Shatra Bandhu, and it brings the topic of upholding a family's reputation, culture, tradition, and principles. So Srila Prabhupada nicely explains a few times in his letters and purports about a quote by Tulsi Das, who is an Indian poet, which speaks about putra and mutra. So putra means son, and mutra means urine. And the analogy is such that both urine and semen come from pretty much the same channel. But if you have a good son, then that would be putra, that would be a son. But if you have a bad son, they're no better than urine. It's almost like a waste. They're no better than urine, meaning they're not upholding. It's like, why did you even have them? They're just causing chaos in society. They're not upholding the family's traditions. And he gave another example of, well, he said eventually that if a son is a devotee, that's the highest thing, then he's definitely putra. But if he's not, if he's sinful, then he's mutra. And that's the highest thing one can be. That's the best way to honor our family tradition. And in another place, Srila Prabhupada, in a letter to Bali Mardan, he quotes Chanakya Pandit. And he says that just as in a forest, if there's a tree that gives off, if one tree gives off a really nice aroma, it has a good flower that gives off a really nice aroma, the whole forest will start smelling of that good aroma. It will glorify the entire forest. But if there's one tree that has a little problem in its cavity and then it catches on fire, it can burn down an entire forest. So his point is that if you just have one good person in a family, they can glorify the entire dynasty of the family. Like we have the example of Prahlad Maharaj, who is a devotee, but he's born in a demon family. His father's a demon, but he's a devotee, and therefore because of his qualities, he's bringing glory to his whole family, to all his lineage. But then, conversely, if you have a good family and you have one bad, sinful son in the family, it corrupts the whole reputation of the family. The family will be known now by that bad son. So the point about really honoring our heritage, our true heritage, and our true heritage is spiritual. It's that we're servants of Krishna. So if we honor that, then we're honoring what's eternal in us. And this point of putra and mutra, or this point of, one good tree versus one bad tree in the forest, it can be not just in relation to parent and son, father and son. It's very accurately and nicely explained in the guru-disciple relationship, that we should be upholding the instructions of our teacher. And that's what Arjuna is teaching us in Bhagavad Gita, because he very perfectly has an open, honest conversation with Krishna throughout the Bhagavad Gita. And then he very happily takes up the instruction that's given to him by his teacher, Krishna. So for us, what we should take from it is that we should be following the instructions of our teachers. Like we have Srila Prabhupada, we have our whole lineage of predecessor acharyas or teachers, and they're giving us instructions, and we can glorify them by following their instructions. And conversely, if we don't follow their instructions, then we're bringing shame to them in one way. We're not accurately representing them, because they are, in one sense, our fathers. They're our spiritual fathers that we should be honoring. So in one of the verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's this description of a first class, second class, third class, and fourth class son, which we can take to be disciple. The first class disciple is one who follows the order or the instruction of the guru without even being asked. They can intrinsically understand the mood and desire of their teacher, and they can just follow it. The second class is when the teacher asks us to do something and we do it. That's second class, following the instruction. Third class would be if the teacher asks us to do something and we do it irreverently, like, okay, and not enthusiastically. And fourth class is when we just refuse the order or the instruction of our teacher. So we don't want to be fourth class. We're trying to be first class. We may be failing. We may be being second class, may even being third class. But let us not be fourth class in our attempts to satisfy our teachers and our family tradition. And the last point I wanted to make before we open up for any kind of discussion is that Bhagavad Gita can be very easily misunderstood if we don't have the vision to see. If we read these verses, we may think, with our material vision, we may think Krishna is promoting violence. But Srila Prabhupada addresses this point in one of his lectures on this verse of Bhagavad Gita. He says that actually to understand Bhagavad Gita correctly, we ourselves need to be purified. If we read it from material vision, then it's going to seem like, why is Krishna riling Arjuna up? Why is he creating a problem when Arjuna wants to be peaceful? But if we have purified senses, then our vision will get purified. And he quotes a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is Nectar of Devotion. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparadvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchate. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and one's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. So if we want to be able to understand Bhagavad Gita or any of the scriptures, we should engage in devotional service, because that will give us purified senses, purified vision, purified mind, and will purify our intelligence. And then we can try to understand to the best of our ability. Hare Krishna. We can have some discussion or questions or comments or reflections, if anyone has. Yes. That's a good question. When you say boundaries under leadership, what are you referring to? Can you give more information? That's a really good question, because in the Bhagavatam, in the story, the Brahmanas did something that's basically never before seen, or it's unheard of for Brahmanas, because they're naturally peaceful, like we spoke about in the class. But when they see that King Vena is sinful and is destroying the kingdom by his sinful activities, then they take action. It's like an emergency situation, and they decide, well, he either has to become righteous